to the Jenny Beth Show.
Tina Peters was finally released from prison in Colorado. For those of us fighting for election integrity, her arrest and incarceration hit home, and we hated watching her persecution. I am extremely grateful for her release, and I hope she's enjoying her family. And speaking of the need for election integrity, someone burned ballots in Los Angeles just days before a primary. Today, California votes. Spencer Pratt is running for mayor of Los Angeles against an incumbent who presided over the worst wildfire disaster in modern city history. President Trump made late night endorsements of 6 California races just hours ago. And over at the LA County Voting Center, investigators are now on the scene of a vandalism attack that left mail-in ballots burning. Today is primary day, and some of the people who've already voted are now wondering whether their ballots are even going to count. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Congress is back in session. ICE and Border Patrol are still not funded, and the Save America Act is still stalled. Tea Party Patriots Action was on the ground in Maine this weekend, rallying with Americans who refuse to give up on election integrity. Nick Searcy, Stacy Washington, and Robert McNeily are with me today. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get into it. Stacy Washington is a host of Stacy on the Right on Patriot News Channel 125 on Sirius XM. Stacy, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, Jenny Beth, thanks for having me.
And we also have Nick Searcy, who is an actor, a producer, a director, and an author. And we also have on our panel, I'm not sure if he's joining right at this exact moment or not, but Robert McNeily with Tea Party Patriots Action. So thank you, Nick and Robert, both for joining me as well.
Great to be here.
So, Stacy, President Trump just endorsed candidates in 6 California races. Today is primary day. What is a combination of Trump's late night endorsements and Spencer Pratt's insurgent campaign? What does it tell us about the state of California Republican Party and politics right now?
Well, I actually think the GOP in California is growing, and it's because the governance has gotten so bad. The Democrats have had unfettered rule there for so long that they've taken for granted that people don't like their houses to burn down. They don't like to see their neighbors die in fires. They don't like empty reservoirs, and they don't like the drug addicts who are on the street, frozen, hunched over in the way. They don't like their children being exposed to that. And so the ones who are diehard Californians and aren't going to leave want something different. And it's even leftists who are kind of coming over to that side. But it's California, so I don't know, Jenny Beth, what can happen there? I guess anything's possible.
Well, Nick, you are a former resident of Los Angeles, and you worked in the entertainment industry, and you still work in the entertainment industry. Before we get into Spencer Pratt and the politics of LA, tell us, what was your experience in California like, and why did you choose to move your family?
Well, I was there for about 30 years, a little over 30 years. And when I first got there, it was a very exciting place to be, lovely place to be. I mean, there was a lot of auditions, there were a lot of opportunity, and it was just a pleasant place to live. And over the 30 years, it got worse and worse as the industry was driven away by taxation policies and other things in California, the expensiveness of everything. And so it became more and more like, what are we doing here? Why are we staying here when every time I would work, it wasn't in California, so right around the time of COVID is when I finally convinced my wife, hey, it's time to get out of here because, COVID in California, everybody was crazy. Your neighbors were crazy. They were willing to put you in jail if you went into the grocery store without a mask. So it was around that time that we just went, okay, it's time to leave. And so we got out of there.
This day exactly in 2020 is a day when the left said, well, it's okay. COVID won't spread if you're protesting in favor of BLM. Remember that? It was this day exactly when they were doing that. I'm really glad that you, Nick, are out of California. During COVID, it was a crazy time, but it's still really awful in California. What do you make of Spencer Pratt's campaign, Nick? And does he address the concerns of people like you who haven't left yet and are still in Los Angeles but are concerned about the direction of this? It's a beautiful state. There's so much to offer.
Yeah, and he's run a fantastic campaign. I mean, basically he's just telling the truth. You know, it's like he says, the look around campaign. You can look around California and Los Angeles and see all the Skid Row bombs and the terrible situation that the city's in. But the problem is in California, number one, there's a lot of sensible people like me that have gotten out of there. and number two, like Stacy said, it's been one party rule there forever, and they've corrupted the electoral system out there. The whole top two candidate thing, it means that most of the time you can't even have a Republican in the general election. You know, you have the choice between two socialists. So if Spencer Pratt is able to make it to the general election, I think that will be a miracle. And if he gets that far, I think anything could happen. I mean, people are pretty fed up out there.
Yeah, they really are quite fed up. Let's take a look at a couple of the videos that, or the ads that Spencer Pratt has done, and then we can comment on them. We're going to show two. One is what I've titled, I don't know if it's the exact title, Not Like Us. And then the other one is Spencer Pratt as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
This is where Mayor Vass lives. You notice something? Or here, where Nicky Raman's $3 million mansion sits. They don't have to live in the mess they've created where you live. This is where I live. They let my home burn down. I know what the consequences of failed leadership are. That's why I'm running for mayor. For my sons and the rest of us Angelinos that want to stop these corrupt politicians from destroying our city. We are going to get the golden age of Los Angeles back.
Okay, and then one more. We've got the one that is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Now this is a story all about how my life got turned upside down, and I had to take a minute to run for mayor. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. In West Los Angeles, Palisades, in my backyard is where I spent most of my days. Feeding hummingbirds, relaxing all cool, avoiding all the bums outside of the school. When a couple politicians who were up to no good started making trouble in my neighborhood, I got in one little fire. My mom got scared and said, "You're moving in with Harvey Levin in Bel-Air." I pulled out from my lot about 7 or 8, and I yelled to the rubble, "Yo ho, smell you later." I moved to my kingdom, I was finally there to sit on my throne as the Prince of Bel-Air.
Pratt's campaign ads have gone viral and they hit home for many people in LA. On top people online who are using AI to create additional ads that work as campaign pieces. And then filmmaker Charlie Curran has made AI generated videos depicting Pratt as Batman, like a Batman style figure, and Karen Bass as the Joker. That one has generated millions of views. As someone who has produced and directed and starred in films, what do you think of these political campaign ads and how well they're doing and the stories they're telling?
Well, they're genius. They're hilarious. I mean, you know, it's a great day when you can make a campaign ad that really makes you laugh, and at the same time, it really reveals the truth about what he's up against. I mean, that whole Prince of Bel-Air thing, I'd never seen that, but you know, it's great. They were coming after him for saying that he was living in a trailer when they said he's renting a place in Bel-Air, and he just took that head on and made fools out of them. I mean, you know, if anybody wants to run for president, they should get that guy, the guy who did Spencer Pratt's campaign. They should get him on board.
Absolutely. And, for the people who lost their homes in that fire and have been displaced, they understand the challenge that he's facing. They want to be in their home, and yet they can't get their home rebuilt because of the crazy red tape and the bureaucratic mess and nightmare that is in LA. Some of them are doing exactly what he's doing. They're in trailers or in hotels or in other places, not in their own home. So when they are throwing things at him and saying, well, you're not really living in that trailer, you're somewhere else. Well, he's like, yeah, but this is what my home has been reduced to. This is what it is. And Nick, in addition to what we see from Spencer Pratt, you and I think we both know John Kahn. He lost his house and pretty much everything that he had in the fire. There are a lot of people who have gone through just tragedy because of that fire. And the people who are in the bureaucracy in LA, it's like they don't understand the actual human connection and human devastation.
Well, I don't think they care. I think, I'm one of the people that believe that what happened in the Palisades was deliberate. And I think they are deliberately not allowing these people to rebuild because they want to take that land. They want to take that land and build low-income housing or whatever, multifamily units, whatever they want to build. They want to get rid of that. They get rid of the single-family home. I mean, that may be going a little far for some people, but I believe that's what's happening.
I don't think it is too far, and it very well, it sure seems to be that way. Robert, Spencer Pratt is running an explicitly nonpartisan campaign. In fact, he turned down President Trump's endorsement and says this is about local accountability. Do you think this is a smart strategy or a missed opportunity to make it a bigger national story?
Well, it's a bold strategy, and it's what Republicans really should do across the country. Just to Nick's point, look at how Spencer Pratt has made this nonpartisan, common sense. In fact, in recent interviews, stating that fact that he wants the endorsements of the moms and all the animals, not just the dogs, but the turtles, the bunnies, and really a jest at what you might find as pets in Southern California. But it's so important to reach out to Republicans, Democrats, and independents. To Stacy's point earlier, California, the Golden State, becoming Republican once again. We'll see what happens tonight, even with the gubernatorial race. But hard to believe that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan came from a once great Golden State.
It actually is hard to believe that, indeed, because the state sure doesn't seem great and golden anymore. Stacy, what is your reaction to the campaign videos and the fact that he is staying nonpartisan, that he doesn't want national endorsements? What do you think about his campaign?
Well, I love that he's running as Spencer Pratt Californian. So what he's doing is he's identifying with the people who live there. And he's saying, you can be a Republican or a Democrat, or you can be politically agnostic. You just want to live a normal life. You want there to be someone to respond if there's a fire. You're paying a lot of money in taxes. You'd love to be able to see houses rebuilt. There are historic structures that were burned in the fire. Their kids, schools were burned. The kids want their schools rebuilt. They want to go back to their neighborhood. And that's what happens normally if something burns down. In America, we rebuild that thing, and then we get back to normal as quickly as possible. To Nick's point about how they're not rebuilding, there's that generational thing where in California, if you deed your house to your child, the taxes remain the same. If you have to rebuild and sell, every one of those 7,000 or so lots that sells, the new tax rate will come into effect for 2026. Everyone who stays in their house, they keep their lot, they rebuild it, like Spencer Pratt, if he inherited that property, which I don't think that's the case for him, but many, many, many of those people who had their structures burned down, they're at a tax rate that's 30, 50, 60 years old. So they could make billions of dollars if every single lot is sold as an empty lot, and then it has to be rebuilt according to new standards that if Karen Bass is reelected, she'll tighten the regulations. You mentioned, both of you mentioned affordable housing. They'll make it so that the neighborhoods that existed before will be a thing of the past. And I have to say, for Spencer Pratt, this is a guy who I actually found out about him as he was beginning this mayoral campaign. And the first thing I noticed is he's not only young, but he has super cute. The kids are super cute. Like, just show the kids every now and again, because all of us who or we're like, oh my gosh, I need something. I need to get to that kid and squeeze his little cheeks. And then there's the Lego ad. If you haven't seen that, well, we're big Lego people over here. Like we have thousands of Legos in this place. All the kids have moved out and the Legos are being preserved for the grandkids that I am demanding my children make for me. Make me some grandkids. And then I'm going to give them the Legos that you had. Many of them are still like the Millennial Falcon, the villages are all still, they're still intact. And some of them have even been glued intact, which is, very bad for Lego people. Don't hate me. But the Lego ad of him, Spencer Pratt, rescuing the people is, I think, the crux of his campaign is that it's youthful. It identifies, people readily identify with it. And we should be looking at that as the GOP, because there are areas of the country that would respond greatly to Spencer Pratt styled advertising, where he goes for the heartstrings, he goes for your kids, he goes for your desire to live well, regardless of political party. So that doesn't mean we're not Republicans anymore. It means we sell our ideas as being what people want because it helps them. And Spencer Pratt does that. So, a lot of people have criticized him. What is he? Is he a Republican? I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Show me another Lego ad. Show me another ad of him as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I can't help but dance to that. I'm Gen X. I grew up watching that. And that was the old Will Smith before Jada Pinkett Smith got a hold to him, before she ruined him and changed him into basically a limp noodle. Yes, bring that back. It makes you feel the way you felt back then. I felt more energetic back then. I'm trying to get my energy back here. Spencer Pratt's giving me life with these ads, and I'm not even a Californian. I did consider, it went viral that all of us who believe in voter ID, but California doesn't have it, that we should travel to California and vote for Spencer Pratt. And
a number of times.
Yeah, I thought about it. I was like, I go to California for so many other things now. I love going and visiting there. I love the way California smells. The parts that are like Dana Point, California is all homeless free and drug free. And so it smells amazing. It looks amazing. The people there are very service friendly. That's where I like to go in California, areas that look like the California that of old from the Nixon years and the Reagan years. And so Spencer Pratt is giving us a lesson in how we can use social media, artificial intelligence, and youthful exuberance to win elections. If he wins, I hope the campaign strategists go straight for this. They should call it the Spencer Pratt playbook. They should go old school, get binders, print everything out, make everyone study it, and then do it exactly. Replicate it like franchisees do. Make it the new GOP playbook, especially for races where people are tired of politics. And I get it. I do this for a living. They're tired of it. I get that. So why not do it his way? He's young and he's winning our hearts with this.
Yeah, he really is winning hearts with it. And he seems very genuine. You can tell he's been through something horrible, and he's trying to find a way to turn a horrible experience in his life into something that is better, make his life better, and make the lives of the people around him in his community better as well. And he's not a professional politician. He's someone who he's running for office more as the American dream, doing what you're able to do in America to be able to run for office. I think it is, his campaigning is great, his style is great, and we need more campaigns like that, but we also need more candidates like that who really want what's best for their community and their constituency.
Yeah.
I think, too, part of the reason he's running the campaign that he's running is the way that he's being attacked by his opponents. They're trying to nationalize the election because in California, Democrats tend to vote for local issues, for local politicians, but based on things like abortion and things like trans rights and things that they don't really have any control over at the local level. And so by responding, they're trying to say, the only thing they can say about Spencer Pratt is that he's running like MAGA or he's running like a Republican. And his response has been perfect. It's like, no, I'm not part of this tribalism. I'm running on local issues. I'm running to make this place better. And that's the perfect way to respond to those people.
Yeah, I think it is the perfect way to respond. And it's what I think you have to do if you're running in a place like California, and not just California, but Los Angeles. It is a very Democrat area normally, but when the Democrat policies fail, and they fail over and over, and they fail regardless of your political ideology, regardless of your income level, regardless of your race, of your nationality, whether you are American, born in America, or you've immigrated and you've become an American citizen, it doesn't matter. The city is failing so many people, and he's just trying to right the ship. Robert, do you have anything to say before we move on to a different topic?
Well, I think Nick's sign hits it right on the head with no liquor served to actors. Maybe it should be no liquor served to the politicians in Southern California. And Governor Huckabee Sanders said a wonderful thing this morning, that we actually need the Golden State. We need that. On its own is the seventh largest GDP in the entire world. So if it was its own country, it would have a heck of an economy. And it has been leftist policies that have destroyed it, from Sacramento, San Francisco, and all the way down to Los Angeles. So we have our thoughts and hopes and pray today for California to make a great comeback. And as Spencer Pratt said, make it the golden era in Los Angeles for Angelenos once again.
Okay, now let's shift our attention just a little bit. It's still related to that race in California, but moving off of Spencer Pratt and his campaigning. So a voting center was vandalized and mail-in ballots were burned in Los Angeles County. Let's watch this clip from CBS News LA.
Developing tonight with the primary election just days away, reports of vandalism at 2 LA County voting centers. Sky Cal was over downtown LA, where several mail-in ballots were apparently burned inside this official DPS drop box. The registrar's office says a police report has been made, and anyone whose ballot was damaged will be contacted and given replacement ballots. Meantime, another case of alleged vandalism reported this morning at a voting center in Cesar Chavez Park in Long Beach. Election workers responded immediately, and there was no disruption to voting.
It's just, it's
disruption.
Yeah.
A metal box is a voting center. A metal box.
Yeah. A metal. Well, that's since 2020. Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
There's an investigation underway. Nick, why don't you respond to it first, and we'll go to Stacy and then to Robert.
Well, the fact that those boxes even exist is ridiculous. It's like anybody can drive by there and put as many ballots in there as they want. And it's like the whole California system is set up for them to cheat easily and often. So nothing surprises me about stuff like that. I mean, maybe they found out there were too many Republicans going to that box, and so they burned it up. I mean, it's all insane.
It really is. Stacy?
Yeah. So another thing to put on my to-do list, I should get my little book out here to print out a bunch of ballots. And then, when I go, instead of maybe fly to Vegas, print the ballots out, fill them out, just take the weekend, put on my favorite show to stream, fill out all the ballots, all for Spencer Pratt, then head straight over to California and go to the ballot box, drop those off, and then go and log into the hotel, get my new streaming set up, maybe do a little sightseeing, but mainly just go to every voting center there is in person and vote for Spencer Pratt. As myself, again and again and again, Stacy Washington, resident of Missouri, but whatever. It doesn't matter if I have an address there. They don't care about integrity. They don't care about who you are when you go vote. They think it's an insult if someone asks you for your ID when you vote. Kira Davis has talked about this a lot. She lives in California still. She's hanging in there. And she talks about how it's actually a part of the way they passed the bill through the assembly that eliminated, voter ID, was that it's an insult for people to ask you to prove who you are. And 1 out of every 5 Californians is there illegally. And that's why you get the kind of voting patterns that you have there, in addition to the fact that it's almost useless to do anything. And that's why you have a guy like Spencer Pratt running. Like, all of this makes sense if you look at it from that voter ID perspective.
Yeah, it's very true. And just to be clear for everyone watching, Cece's joking. She's not really going to vote illegally, and we don't advocate for it. We're just using hyperbole to show how ridiculous it is not to have an ID and not to verify residency when you actually vote. It's why we care so much and want to make sure that we're tightening with common sense things to make sure it's easy to vote and hard to cheat. Robert,
it's true, but I mean, I am Stacy. People who know me well ask Nick offline what I'm like. I could be booking my flight right after this. I'm kidding.
And I am advocating for people to do that, by the way.
There we go. Okay, so moving right along, as that happens in the next time you are watched, I just, for the record, saying make sure that we're following the rules with elections.
We are. I mean,
That's right.
Jenny Beth's an attorney. And
We're not Democrats.
But
I'm not.
yeah. Well, and Nick, you know this very well because you did a documentary about what happened to Simone Gold and others who were questioning the outcome of the 2020 election. And in light of the kind of weaponization of the government, I always feel like, let's just make sure we're very clear here. What is sarcasm? Because we've seen that the left does not have a sense of humor.
So true.
No, they want to criminalize dissent. They want to criminalize, arguing with them, basically. So.
Yeah.
So we have one more clip that we're going to play. This one is of Karen Bass reacting to some of the AI generated videos. Let me do that. And then, Robert, I'm going to get you to reply to that.
What do you make of his campaign and much of it now relying on AI, showing you as the Joker, showing you as Darth Vader, and sharing out other people's AI that shows that? What goes through your mind when you see that?
Well, actually, I think it's a very dangerous trend. One, because it is absolutely 150% fiction. But what's worrying me now is that his social media is now taking on a violent turn. And that worries me, because when you do that and when your messages are so hateful, or when you demonize people, then you do provoke people who are unstable, and you can jeopardize people's safety.
You mean like the throwing of the tomatoes at you?
Well, the throwing of the tomatoes, which look like blood, or drowning me and the governor in a reservoir. But there's also other violent scenes. And so I've noticed that it's taking on a violent trend. And that I find to be very scary. But I do know that he has become wildly famous again. But a lot of his support, I don't know how much of it is in LA.
Yeah, there's no question that there's a lot of support coming from
all
national folks that are not voting in Los Angeles. But there also are people in LA that seem drawn to him, including some Democrats that are drawn to him. What do you think that's about?
I think that we are going through a moment which is not unfamiliar. We go through moments where across the board voters are just upset. And I worry that social media, like what he is proposing, and then casting himself as a Superman. Let's see, he's Batman, he's whoever the savior was on some of the other superhero movies. I think that plays into people's desperation. And I think oftentimes we look for somebody superhuman to save us. The reality is, it never happens.
Well, she sure wasn't saving people after that fire. So the human aspect wasn't working. Robert, so what do you think of that? She's sitting there complaining about the ad, saying that they are going to lead, they have turned to violence, that they're going to lead to violence. And yet we see actual violence taking place with arson in these voting ballot boxes. And there was real loss of property, real damage to people's lives under her leadership. So what do you make of what she's saying here?
This is the core and the key to it, Jenny Beth. They don't want you to have private property rights. And we saw that when President Trump, his first trip after being sworn in for his second term, January 31st, after the January 7th fires, coming there to meet with her saying, why don't you rebuild right now? Meeting with those people on their properties with everything destroyed and gone, just like the Pratts have gone through. So I say ridiculous, to quote the Pratt campaign, Mayor Karen Basura, as he puts it, because she is a communist and they do not want private property rights. And it's simply ridiculous to insinuate that it's blood on the face or it looks violent. No, that looks like a tomato to me, because AI is becoming quite nifty and quite handy. And there is truth in comedy. For any of us who've worked in the entertainment industry, they understand that. And that form of communication really reaching out to those Angelenos. And that's why I think you're going to have Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike supporting Spencer Pratt today.
So, Nick, let me ask you something. Who do you think has better name recognition in LA right now, Spencer Pratt or Batman?
It'd be a toss-up, I think. It'd be a pretty close vote. I mean, that's about the most I've ever listened to Karen Bass. I can't stand to listen to her talk because it's all doublespeak. And what I always notice about these leftist politicians is how humorless they are and how stupid they think the voters are. I mean, nobody can watch that video and think it's advocating violence. He's making fun of them. It's obviously AI. It's obviously animated. It's so ridiculous that she would turn this around that, he's advocating violence when it's the left that's actually committing violence most of the time. It's just, these people are just horrible. It's like they can't get any good people to run as Democrats. So they wind up with these mediocrities that are just so boring and stupid.
Very true. And Stacy, do you think she's just trying to deflect from her own awful record when it comes to the fires, crimes, homelessness in LA, when she's saying the things she was saying in that interview?
So I thought it was kind of ironic that she's making the point that we've made over and over again when they shot President Trump in the ear, when they shot they shot Charlie Kirk and killed him. There have been so many other violent acts. The baseball field. So no one talks about the baseball field anymore. The congressional shooting where Steve Scalise almost lost his life. I believe he went through 36 surgeries after that to put himself back together again. Rand Paul being attacked by his neighbor. This isn't about whether or not you agree with the viewpoints of Trump or Paul or any of these other individuals. It's about whether or not they have the right to speak in America, which they do. And we're being conditioned to see that as normal. But a video that is fictionalized, right? She's obviously not Batman or Lord Vader. That's an insult to Lord Vader, by the way, because he was a very effective dictator. Lord Vader actually got things done. He had an inspirational technique of choking you with the force if you didn't deliver results. And so he was very efficient. Nothing burned down under his watch. After the Death Star was destroyed, he actually implemented a jackbooted thuggery across the entire galaxy, the universe, in fact, that caused people to obey. So Karen Bass being compared to Lord Vader is actually an insult to that iconic, like that's over the ages. We learned about dictatorship from Lord Vader as children and understood that it was supposed to be effective. These modern day Democrats are very thin, false, and disappointing dictators. They want it, but they don't have what's in them to actually get results. So when I look at her being upset, of course you're going to be upset if you're accurately depicted as a ne'er-do-well who's an incompetent and also you're killing people, right? Because that's what they don't want us to really discuss. They want us to discuss the tomatoes, the AI videos. They don't want us to discuss the people who were killed during the fire, the fact that she was out of town on an international junket on the continent of Africa, and the fact that the reservoirs didn't have water in them. They're deflecting about that. And so they want to focus on the tomato. I say Spencer should make one of those videos every 3 days. Every 3 days, because why is she running for re-election? I can just see, like, I would never preside over a disaster like she did. But if for some reason I had been that disastrous in my management, I would not run for re-election. That's the true sign that you understand that your actions have consequences. She elected to actually place herself in authority over millions of people, their livelihoods. She's supposed to be caring for them, and she's supposed to feel a sense of shame and degradation personally if anyone dies on her watch. She doesn't, nor does Gavin Newsom, by the way, nor do any other Democrats. They always deflect when people die because of their actions. And that's the focus. That's why the video has tomatoes hitting her in the face, because over time, hundreds of years since the serfdom over in Europe, if you hit somebody in the face with a tomato, it was the ultimate insult. And that's why he put it in the video. And that's why she's insulted by it. But she doesn't get the fact that she should not be running for re-election. And that to me is the worst of it, that she still thinks she deserves power. She's actually trying to contain the power within her own hands instead of releasing it because she has failed.
Those are very good points. And what you said about the tomato and it being a centuries-old tradition to indicate displeasure with a politician, it's absolutely true. And I'm sure she never even learned that. She couldn't even name Batman in that interview.
Which was funny.
She said everything was 150% wrong. It's 100%. That's everything. So obviously has a few issues. Okay. We're going to be right back. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Save America Act, Maine, and Graham Platner. All right, I just got back from Maine. That's where I was over the weekend. Scott Presler and I were doing events for the Save America Act. And in the events that we did, we were in Wells, Maine, which is right outside of Portland, and then in Bangor. And we were encouraging people to call their senators, call their congressmen, and advocate for the Save America Act. People across this country, we have been in South Dakota, Arizona, Alaska, Maine, Georgia, all over this country. Scott was in Louisiana. He campaigned against Cassidy, and he also was in Texas, and he campaigned for Paxton and against Cornyn. People want this legislation passed. Stacy, and just a quick reminder in case somebody is watching and they don't, or listening on the podcast and they don't know what it is, it will require proof of citizenship to register to vote and voter ID when you cast a ballot. So Stacy, from your audience on Sirius XM, what are you hearing about the Save America Act, and what is what you are hearing tell you about where the fight is headed?
So right now the fight is within the GOP because we have a leader in the Senate who won't even do the filibuster. He won't use the processes that are left to us, by the founders who set up our government in order to force the Democrats to argue about this for what could be a 48 or 49-day fight. But I mean, we've seen legislators where depends to be able to stand up for 24, 48, however many hours. I think Rand Paul holds the record. It's mandatory. It's a must do. This is bipartisan support for this. An overwhelming majority of Americans who are Democrats and Republicans and independents support the Save America Act. It makes sense. It's an update to the rules in our country because the founders never envisioned a time where America would be so immoral and corrupt, where people would have to have the kind of things that you outlined that are a part of this integral legislation. So we need a new leader in the Senate. And I have nothing against Thune personally, but for him to have a dog and pony show, a literal dog fashion show in the U.S. Senate, and then break and send them home for the recess, for him to vindictively yell at AG Todd Blanche, they led like this horrible session against him because of the weaponization fund that President Trump set up. We elected President Trump overwhelmingly, all of the swing states, popular vote, over 4,000 counties. Americans support President Trump's agenda. We don't need the U.S. Senate to act as if they are higher and mightier than President Trump to go against something that really the weaponization fund is just a small aspect, a tiny little sliver of the entire Agenda 47. They need to work on implementing that because that's what we voted for. And I want to see that happen immediately. And Leader Thune should remember that we elected him to do the agenda that is under this president, not to do dog shows. And I'm here for the dog shows. Like when our dog was still with us, I still have all of his sweaters, his Santa suit. If we get another dog, that dog is wearing the sweaters and the Santa suit, or I'm giving them to my daughter when she gets a dog. I'm into the dogs wearing clothes. So this isn't about that. It's about him being a senator and getting paid $200 and some thousand a year, and they're on break. Why are they constantly on break? Why do they only work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? Why are they constantly on break? Like I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. I want them to go to President Trump and apologize to him and then do everything that President Trump, every part of the agenda. And if it fails, so be it. If they can't get it passed, so be it. But they're not even trying, Jenny Beth. They're not even trying.
Yeah, well, and they'll claim they tried or that they worked really hard on it. And we were just talking about Star Wars. This is something that I mentioned over the weekend. Actually, I said Yoda comes to mind. There is no try. It is
Right. Yes.
You've got to do it. You have to do or do not. There is no try.
Right.
I'm mangling the quote. I had it over the weekend. But the point is, just get it done. Don't say, oh, I worked so hard. I tried. Yeah, go fight and get it done. Nick, the Save America Act has broad support, and yet it is stalled, as Stacy was just saying. As someone who lives in culture and talks to regular people, what is the case you would make to ordinary Americans about why this matters if ordinary Americans are even on the fence?
Well, I think the problem is that the ordinary Americans are with us. I mean, what we're facing here is, you have a party, the Democrat Party, who doesn't want voter ID under any circumstances. And then you have just enough of the Republicans in the Senate that are basically Democrats in disguise. And this is a problem we've been having all across the board for years. You have people like Tillis who get elected and who get in there, and they don't act like Republicans. They talk like Republicans during the campaign, and then they don't support what the Republicans want. So the real problem is not convincing America. America is 80% convinced that we need the SAVE Act, that we need voter ID. The analogy I always use is if you had a party that wanted to do away with ID at liquor stores, what would be the point of that? What would you think they wanted to do? They would want underage people to buy liquor, wouldn't they? Mm-hmm. They would want it to be easier to buy liquor. So there's no reason to not want the SAVE Act other than you want to be able to cheat. You want to be able to let people, illegal aliens, whatever, people voting multiple times, you want that to happen. So I don't think it's the American people that need to be convinced. We have to convince these senators that we're not going to take it. This is not right. And you're going to have to we elect you to do what we want, and you're not doing it.
That's exactly right. And I think we just have to keep on making those phone calls. And Robert, what do you think is the single most powerful thing that someone watching or listening today can do in the next 24 to 48 hours to help move the Save America Act?
Well, to quote the wise Jedi Yoda, call you must, vote you must, with 6 primary elections today. So we're highlighting California, but also Iowa, of course, Montana, New Jersey, Nevada, also South Dakota. I don't want to hear from people that I have no control, I can't do anything, because you can today. Get those pens and papers out right now. 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. That is the Capitol Hill switchboard. Peacefully and patriotically call. Usually you get an intern or a legislative aide on the other side, and tell your senators, Republican and Democrat, to pass the Save America Act. Visit passthesaveamericaact.com. Sign yourself up and have democracy happen in action. Vote, call. Let's make this happen for the American people. And we've seen with recent elections, those warriors ready to pass this common sense legislation are about to get to Washington, but that will be January 3rd of next year. So lots to do in the meantime.
Absolutely. So again, that number is 202-224-3121. And you can go to passthesaveamericaact.com for more information. Now, just a minute ago, I was speaking about being in Maine. The U.S. Senate race is heating up there, and Democrat Graham Platner has raised more than $16 million, but he has so much controversy with him. It is actually a bit unbelievable. If he wins, he goes up against Susan Collins in November, and the entire Senate majority could come down to that race. Stacy, the Maine Democratic Party is just next week on June 9th. Why should people really be paying attention to that race, even if they are not in Maine or New England?
Well, because they constantly call President Trump Nazi. They call you and me Nazi. It's like a blanket insult. You can be white and be a Nazi. You can be a black Nazi. You can hate yourself. That's what they tell me. I hate myself. But this guy actually has a Nazi tattoo. Like this guy, there's some kind of a breakdown over on Breitbart. Nolte is writing about the Nazi tattoo, Platner's disqualifying scandal rap sheet. He says it's 14 and counting. Now, They like him because here's the secret sauce. Democrats noticed in the last election, 2024, that they got soundly beaten in the demographic of young men. Young men are turned off by the Democrat Party. It's a matriarchy. It's run by women and gay men. And nothing against gay men, but they don't see the masculinity that they identify with. They want to go to church. They want to marry someone hot. They want to make cute kids. They want to be successful in their business, and they want to own land and shoot guns and drink beer and barbecue. And so the Democrats are the antithesis of all of that. So now they're trying to run candidates they have toothy grins, they're kind of rugged looking. And so even though this guy is like the worst, he's everything Democrats say Republicans are, especially in their hatred of President Trump, but they like him because he looks like he's someone that young men could identify with. And so they're going for looks. They're looks maxing on this guy. But the details about him are very important for us to watch, because if the Democrats can successfully elect this guy, they will continue to run just any person who looks like they can identify with young men, that demographic, but that person could be literally Hitler or Satan or any other thing that we don't want. And so we have to watch them, because Democrats are really good at, basically they run a playbook and everybody runs the same playbook, and they do it until it's successful. They don't change. They don't adjust to like that beating they took in 2024 where President Trump beat Kamala Harris like a drum. Democrats aren't taking that as we need to look inward. We need to think about our policies. No, they're like, we lost young men. How can we get young men to vote for us? We can run a young man, or we can run a man who looks rugged, looks like he barbecues and drinks beer. That's what they're doing, because they're all surface, and underneath it's all demonic. It all hurts you. Look at Los Angeles. Look at the Pratt campaign. Look at what they're doing to the people of LA. They want to do that across the country. They want to elect Gavin Newsom and make America California. And the only thing I want out of California is the weather. That weather, that coastline, give me some of that here in the Midwest. But the rest of it, there's a reason why we live here instead of California, because we can't live in California. It's unlivable in the places where we would go to get a job, right? My husband's in IT. We would go to a city, a population center. We can't live in the big cities in California, but we can live well here in a number 25 city. And, it's basically like paradise here in Missouri, except we don't have the beach. That's why I go to Florida, 3-4 times a year to get the beach. But notice I don't go to California 3 or 4 times a year. I go to God's country with America's governor, Ron DeSantis, and I go down there and get my beach and everything. So watch this race, because this man is the literal personification of every insult a Democrat has leveled at you since they became the new Democrat Party, and they're running him with a straight face. It's a joke.
It is a joke. And what you said about their look matching, isn't that just exactly what they do? That's what DEI is all about. Just deciding who someone is based on how they look, and then based on how they look, they just make decisions about the person without knowing anything about what the person is on the inside. And this man clearly has problems. Nazi tattoos. He's a Marxist. He's heaven knows what all he's done inside and outside of his marriage. He hasn't even been married that long. And he was on that social media platform with an active account, Kick, which is what middle schoolers and elementary school kids normally use. So it's just, it is a mess. Oh, and then on top of that, I read that he also has done cocaine. So just all sorts of problems. Nick, when you see this, 2 questions for you. First, he himself is saying that the controversies have strengthened his campaign. So what do you think that says about the Democratic Party? And then the other thing is, you have focused on culture for years, and you're in the entertainment industry. You've seen what's happened to California as it has gone further and further and further to the left. What do you think about both coasts and the issues that we have on both coasts trending towards straight-on Marxism?
Well, I forgot what the first question was. But, the thing about the Democrats is it's breathtaking. They're the only people in the world that can run an actual Nazi and then call you a Nazi for not voting for him. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I think the only thing I take away from that is what I've already said about the left is they're shameless. They don't have any conscience about anything. All they care about are tactics. And is this going to win or not win? And to see people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and all these people fall in behind this guy, Graham, it just shows you that they are tribal to the nth degree. There's nothing nothing that could come out about this guy would turn them away from him. And they're running a guy that literally calls his favorite part of his body Mein Führer. I mean, that was his nickname he used on. There's nothing too low for them. As far as the entertainment industry, I mean, I think that what's happening on both coasts, and I think what's happening in both New York and LA, is that everybody's moving out that can. I mean, I know from being in Nashville and Tennessee, there's T-shirts all over, people saying, "Don't California my Tennessee," because there's so many people moving in there. They're abandoning these places. So the only people that are left there are the people that support those kinds of things, and the people who don't know any better. And what's happened in California is that they've made the electoral system so that you can't really get these people out. It's almost impossible to vote them out, because most of the time you wind up with 2 Democrats in the general election because of the system they've set up. In New York, they're intentionally running the producers, the entrepreneurs, the people who build things, the people who build businesses. They are intentionally driving those people away. Even the mayor of Seattle has said that. We want to goodbye. We don't care about you. So what happens? All you have left there are people who vote themselves money from the government, and the politicians who say, "We're going to give you money if you elect us." And so that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then you have like the governor of New York, who is urging people to come back so they can pay the high taxes that she's done. Yet they complain about all the people who have the money to pay the high taxes. They just are so short-sighted. Robert, in one quick sentence, what does it say about Maine Democrats that this man is still the front runner?
Frightening. Truly frightening. The only 2 good things I can hand to him, he's a veteran and an oyster farmer. But to Stacy's point, it's looking at the playbook. They are into identity politics. They do not believe the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., in the Empire State of New York, in the Golden State of California, in the individual. They believe in the collective. They have since their founding. And when you look towards positive populism and great candidates like Steve Hilton out in California, that's what we need more of. The right has to succeed in the populist movement in America. Really a frightening and disturbing task here at hand and fact. If you take the left coast, all of the states up against the Pacific of Washington, Oregon, California, and then everything on the eastern seaboard going down from Maine to Florida, and thank God for Governor Ron DeSantis in the free sunshine state of Florida. If those states go blue completely, it dominates the presidential map, even with the redrawings, even what we're experiencing now with the legislators being called back in the Southeast. Now, common sense, to Nick's point, everyone's moving to Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, because great policies, Republican policies, are done right here. In fact, look at Georgia. We have tech now. We have Hollywood. I was just at Tillis Studios over the weekend, the Hollywood of the South, really a beacon and a hope towards that golden era of what once was the 1950s sunshine or golden state of California. So as we look towards that, we also have ballot boxes here in Georgia that are monitored 24/7 by camera. So again, common sense, but really something to watch out for, because Graham Platner represents the worst of the communist movement in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, well, and as long as those California people or the Hollywood people who come to Georgia to film don't California Georgia, we're okay.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Nick Searcy, Stacy Washington, and Robert McNeily, thank you all 3 for being on the show. And Nick, where can people go to follow you on X and other social media platforms?
I'm at Yes Nick Searcy on X. I don't recommend it. It's a knife fight over there. It's dirty. It's all day and it's dirty, and I drag everybody through the mud. But if you have to, that's where you find me. And I just did a movie in Georgia called The Rescue. We shot it in Georgia. I was at Trilith. I think that movie's coming out. Paramount produced it. It's coming out first of next year, I believe. The Rescue.
Oh, great. Yeah. We'll have to make sure that we watch that. And then, Stacy, where can people follow you, and remind everyone about when they can catch your show?
9 p.m. East, Monday through Friday. That's the radio show. 3 hours. We have guests like Jenny Beth Martin and Nick Searcy, and we need to have you on. We'll do all those things. You can find me at Stacy on the Right on all the social media channels. Lots of video and cool stuff over on Instagram. And, you know, I don't have a knife fight on my Twitter, but I definitely post things there that, like, I post the scripture of the day and our show information. And so definitely connect with me. I'd love to talk to you. And I love coming on the Jenny Beth Martin Show. I'm so glad it's back. It's rippingly successful, which is what I love. I love it when my friends win. So congratulations, Jenny Beth.
Thank you so much, Stacy. And I love being on your show as well. And Robert, remind everyone where they can go to find you.
Yes, at Robert McNeily TV over on Instagram, and reach out to me at Robert B. McNeily over at Truth Social. So McNeily, McNeily. We are in the trenches. It's always an honor to be with you, Jenny Beth. And my goodness, we're going to California. So I hope to say hi to all the wonderful people out in Southern California over the next few days. And I hope come tonight, if they have returns happen relatively quickly, we can be celebrating some of the big primary successes across the entire country.
So. Very good. Thank you all three so much for being on. Before we go, one more time, call 202-224-3121. Demand that your member of Congress and both of your senators pass the Save America Act. Urge your congressman to attach the Save America Act to every single bill the House passes as they send it back over to the Senate. Go to passthesaveamericaact.com for more information. The Senate, just remember this, the Senate is counting on you to stay quiet. They want this bill to just stall out and fizzle off and go away quietly. Don't give them what they want. Be polite, be respectful, and continue to let them know that 80% plus of Americans want only American citizens voting in elections and want voter IDs when we cast our ballots. Now, before we go, did you know that the coast of Maine is the first place to see the sunrise in America? Yesterday, before we left Maine, I went to Otter Cliff Overlook in Acadia National Park to see the sunrise. I woke up around 3:20 in the morning and arrived at the park at 4 a.m. The sun officially rose at 4:51. Here is a clip from my phone that I took at dawn around 4:41 yesterday morning. What a beautiful creation God has given us to enjoy and to use and to steward. For more information or to see more with Nick Searcy on one of our documentaries, check out Border States of America, which features Nick Searcy. You can see that just by clicking through, and we'll include the link in the show description as well. I am Jenny Beth Martin. This was the Jenny Beth Show, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for being with me. If you enjoyed today's conversation, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. It really helps us reach more people who care about liberty and the Constitution. You can find this and other episodes at jennybethshow.com, as well as Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, X, and your favorite podcast platform.
The Jenny Beth Show is hosted by Jenny Beth Martin. The Jenny Beth Show is a production of Tea Party Patriots Action. For more information, visit TeaPartyPatriots.org.